Hello and welcome back to this lesson series. I hope the last lesson has given you a new perspective on looking at scores. Remember, we play the piano. The orchestra players play their own instruments, which are different from the piano. So, what we are aiming for is to play the piano so that it sounds like the overall effect of the orchestra, not the exact notes that the orchestra plays. For example, the tremolo that we talked about the last times, the strings can repeat the notes easily by just flicking the wrist slightly, but we have to break them up and play it this way. Now, there's another issue for us about tremolo, is where the tremolo is in terms of the range of the piano, whether it's very high, in the middle, or at a low range. For strings, they can tremolo at a high range with no problem and sound very elegant. But if we do that, it sounds entirely different, which I'm going to show you in this example. Now this is Mimi's second aria from La Bohème by Puccini. And in this particular section, the strings are actually soaring at a very high pitch and playing tremolos at this range. But when we do that on the piano, it sounds a little bit too present and not string-like, if you get what I mean. So instead of the very grandeur sound that the strings can have, we have this. Which sounds actually a little bit like the triangle to me, if you ask me. So, a solution here is to take away the tremolo from the very high range, and it also applies to very low range because you don't want to have tremolo at this kind of range. So try and put the tremolo in the middle range. So in this one, I want you to have a look at the score and figure out the chords that the orchestra is playing at those moments and play the tremolo in the middle. So you play the outer backbone, the right hand and the left hand, and then tremolo in the middle. And then the next as well. And so then what you will get is this kind of effect. Instead of what is written, which is tremolo is one thing that we will also cover when we look at Nessun Dorma later in the series. When looking at piano reductions, one thing that we need to be careful of is that sometimes transcribers don't include a certain instrument line into the reduction. Sometimes it is fine because they are not very important, but sometimes they are very, very crucial. Remember, our job is to create the overall effect of what the orchestra sounds like. So if there are very clear lines that we hear from the orchestra, we probably want to include them into the playing as well. This aria is a very obvious example because actually in the orchestra, the oboe plays the line, the melody, with the soprano or mezzo-soprano in this case. So why does the transcriber not put the oboe line into this reduction? I don't know, but I think it is very important for us to realize that and to play it. And so on. There is this section from Count's aria from Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro, and in this section What is actually very special about these few bars is that the timpani actually started playing at this moment. And unfortunately, we don't get that in the reductions that we see. In the reductions, we see this. But in reality, the timpani actually is rolling within these few measures. So what the singers should actually hear is this. Now keep in mind, this is actually very important because the last thing that we want is for the singer to go to their first rehearsal after rehearsing with us, to go to their first rehearsal with the orchestra and be totally surprised about what they hear. So the next time when you look at a reduction, also go and listen to the orchestra version and see what you actually miss from the piano reduction. In the next lesson, we'll start to look at Nessun Dorma in depth and the various orchestra playing issues that we can find while playing that. It will also be good if you can have a look at a score before the next lesson and also listen to the orchestra version, of course with the singer, and play through it if you want before we start our session next time. So I'll see you then.